Hey everybody, this is a recap of our second week in our story series at Snapshot, and this week we're talking about the story of Esther. It's in the Old Testament, and it's all about how God used this girl named Esther in a rough situation that she was in to help his people, the Israelite people, gain freedom and be safe. So the story starts out with this king named Xerxes, and Xerxes' kingdom has taken over all of the Jewish lands, so they've held all of the Jewish people captive, and that's kind of where we're set up at. And King Xerxes is a messed up guy, right? Like, he wants everyone to think that he himself is a god. Like, not just a dude, not just their king, but a god. So he makes all these crazy rules and has people follow these things to make people think he's a god. And the big one is that you cannot talk to King Xerxes unless he asks for you to talk to him. Like, if you're in the same room as him, like, you don't get in the same room as him because he wants everyone to think he's a god. So the only way you can get to see him is if he asks for you to come see him. And if he doesn't know you, he's not going to ask for you to see him, right? So this is kind of something we'll need later in the story. So King Xerxes is having a party one day, and he is super crunk with all of his friends. And all of his friends are like, hey, your wife, your queen, is really beautiful. You should ask her to come out. And he's like, okay. So he tells his queen, I want you to come out, but I just want you to be wearing a crown. That's it. And she's like, player, I ain't doing that, right? She's like, no way, as any good, sensible woman would. And King Xerxes gets really mad because, remember, he's drunk and he's hanging out with all his buddies and now he looks stupid. So he gets super mad at his queen and says, you are no longer the queen. And then he goes on this long search for a new queen. And the way he does this isn't like by like going on a dating website or like trying to, go hang out with people and find a woman he might like. He just has some of his guards go and pretty much kidnap beautiful women and bring them to the palace, and he tries to see which one he likes. Terrible dude, right? Terrible dude. So this is kind of the guy in charge who we're dealing with here. And anyway, there are two other people in the story that are very important. This guy named Mordecai, who is a Jewish guy, and a guy named Haman, who works for King Xerxes, and kind of has the trickle-down effect of King Xerxes thinking too much of himself. Haman thinks way too much of himself in this story. And Haman thinks he's so amazing because he works so closely with the king, and he's so important that people should bow to him when he walks through the gates every day back and forth to work at the palace. And there's this one guy, Mordecai, who we talked about, who's a Jew, who actually also happens to be Esther's uncle, who helps take care of her. He never bows to Haman, and Haman gets super mad at him, right? Because Haman thinks he's awesome, and who is this guy? And he finds out that Mordecai is a Jew, and he believes in the one true God, and that's the only person he's bowing to, right? Mordecai is only bowing to God, not to a person. So this makes Haman super mad, and not just mad at Mordecai, but all of the Jews. And he's like, we should just get rid of all of these Jews. They're messed up, and it's not okay that they don't think that Xerxes is king and that they won't see me as awesome as I truly am, right? So Haman devises this plan. He gets the king to sign off on it, and he says, I'm going to give a bunch of gold and put it in our treasury if you kill all of these Jewish people. He's like, they have a lot of money saved up. We can take all of that money and put in our treasury if we kill all of them. So King Xerxes is like, yeah, sure. But he doesn't know that his queen that he has chosen, Esther, is actually a Jew herself, right? So Mordecai hears of this plan to kill all of their people, and he sends a messenger to Esther, because you can't just like walk in and talk to the king's queen either, right? You just couldn't do it. So he sends this messenger and says, this is the deal, this is what's going on. They're planning to kill all of us. We need you to talk to the king. And Esther is like, well, there's a problem with that. First of all, I can't just go talk to the king. Remember that rule? He thinks he's a god, right? We can't just go talk to him. And second of all, the king hasn't like asked to see me in like a month. He just hasn't asked to see me. He doesn't want to see me, doesn't want to talk to me. So I don't think I should do that because he'll kill me. So that's what she sends back to Mordecai. And then Mordecai says this to her, and this is in Esther chapter 4, verse 13 and 14. He says, do you think you will escape there in the palace when all the other Jews are killed? If you keep quiet at a time like this, God will deliver the Jews from some other source. This is super awesome because Mordecai is saying, Esther, if you don't even try and do this, I have so much faith that God is going to save us and take care of us. He's going to do it some other way, but doesn't it make sense that you would do this, right? Like, Mordecai has this amazing faith. And he goes on to say, but you and your relatives will die. And what's more, who can say but that God has brought you into the palace for just such a time as this, right? He's saying, why else would you be there? So is Mordecai being super insensitive and saying, it's a really good thing that you got kidnapped and forced to marry this crazy guy who thinks he's a god? Probably not. I think he's trying to say that God is going to use this rough situation that Esther has found herself in, and that he can work something amazing through that tough situation. Right? And then Esther has this change of heart, and she understands that this is more than just about her, right? Because before she was just thinking about her. She's like, if I try to talk to the king, I'll get killed. So she said, all right, pray for me. I'm going to go do it. And if I must die, I must die, right? Like, that's a big switch from no way, Jose, I'm not doing it, to if I get killed, I get killed, right? Like, what changed in her heart? I think she realized that she saw Mordecai's faith, knowing that God was going to save the Jewish people through some way if it wasn't her. And also, she saw that God can work even in this terrible circumstance that she found herself in, being a kidnapped, forced to marry somebody who didn't even want to talk to her anymore, right? Like, that's a pretty tough, that's a terrible situation. And she realized that God is bigger than our situations that we find ourselves in. He doesn't put us in terrible situations, but he can work good things out of them and through them. So we talked about that in our small groups a lot. Is there a situation that you find yourself in that you just absolutely can't stand? Maybe it's a place, a family situation, a friendship, a job thing. You're just like, I cannot stand this. Maybe God has you there for a reason, or maybe he can use that tough situation that you're going through for something good. All right, we're sharing story, and part of it was me sharing some of my story. And really quick, I just had a really rough time being a Christian in high school. Like, my freshman year, I kind of decided I was going to be really serious about being a Christian. So I started carrying my Bible around everywhere with me at school and reading it when we didn't have any work to do in class. And people would yell at me and make fun of me and be like, you can't read that here, you can't talk about that. And I'm like, I'm not talking to you about it, just reading. And I mean, people would say stuff to me all the time, even in the middle of class, like when we weren't doing stuff. Like, they would just get mad at me because I was reading the Bible and trying to follow Jesus. I wasn't calling them out on anything. I was just being me, reading the Bible. And so this went on for all 4 years. And then my senior year, we got a chance to read something in our English class, like our last English class. And everybody was getting up and just like reading like a little like thing they wrote about a book they read or something. But we got a chance to write these poems. And I wrote this poem about something that I heard a lot of people in my class say, like, I'm going to live like crazy and do whatever I want. And then when I get old and right before I die, I'm going to ask God to forgive me, and then it'll be cool. And I'm like, hold on, you're making fun of me because you don't believe in God. But then you're like, you want to make sure that you don't go to hell, right? In case it's real. Like, I don't think it works that way. So I wrote this poem kind of talking about how stupid that was. And I got up and read it in front of the class. I wasn't sure I was going to do it because I was like, I already get made fun of a ton. I hate being here sometimes because of it. But at the same time, like, I had this amazing chance to talk to people about Jesus and show that he has love and truth, and that living a life with him now is better than living the life you think you want to live and then trying to ask for forgiveness for it later, right? Like, that doesn't seem too genuine in the first place. So I got to do that. I don't know. It was like close to the end of school, so I don't know if that really like changed anyone's hearts, but nobody was mean to me after that. Like, I said that. They're like, wow, that makes me think. And I was like, awesome. That was the point. So maybe God can use a tough situation that you're in that you're like, I just hate this. And he has something for you to say or do that could help change someone's heart and bring them closer to him. Love you guys. Have an awesome week. God bless.